culture vultures and humorist Jon Spayde. The Junkyard Democrats in a dive bar. Southwest Light Rail, Tommy Johnson, and MinnPost writer Mary Stanik.
All of our scandals have been kind of stupid.
Now on Democratic Visions, here's producer Jeff Straight.
You may not have heard of Mary Stanik, but if you've read her articles in MinnPost and Open Salon, you will realize that she is one of Minnesota's brightest lights.
Thanks very much. Yeah. I'm glad to be here. Thanks for having me on.
Now, Mary Stanik's first novel, Life Erupted, and her internet takes on politics, media, women's issues, and more brim with precision and humor. Now, tell me about MinnPost. I love your columns.
Oh, thanks. I like writing for them a lot.
Yeah.
It's a really good alternative, as you know, to the media that exists in this town already. And it offers an opportunity for writers like myself who, wouldn't have a chance, perhaps, to write for the St. Paul Pioneer Press or the Minneapolis Star Tribune that much.
Well, your stuff has extra spark to it, more personality.
And you're allowed to do that there.
Yeah, okay.
You're allowed to do that. I mean, I just
why
love my...
aren't more MinnPost writers taking up that
Well, I don't know.
opportunity?
You'd have to ask them.
Are they too shy? Or?
Maybe, or... I think a lot of the people who read MinnPost are pretty serious people, and they're
Sure.
pretty interested in heavy-duty policy issues. And that's not to say that they're not interested in other things. I think I write about some pretty heavy-duty issues. I've written about sex scandals and...
Well, tell us about the sex scandals.
Well, they're fascinating, aren't
Yeah, okay, we all
they?
love them.
As Mrs. Thatcher once said, tell me what you think about foreign affairs. I love them. I recently wrote about the president of France, François Hollande.
Sure.
And I said, it's kind of funny that the French have always turned an eye, and a blind eye to that sort of thing, but now they're not. Perhaps it was because, as I wrote, he looked somewhat like Mike Dukakis when he was in the tank, mixed with Rocky the Flying Squirrel when he was on that scooter
Sure.
going over to his girlfriend's house. But they do scandals so much better than we do. I mean, all of our scandals have been kind of stupid.
Well, they all take over the news.
They take over the news, but they're also, kind of stupid. I mean, here's a guy, he's president of the country, and he's putting on his helmet and getting on his scooter in the middle of the night, going off to his movie actress girlfriend's house.
Yeah.
I mean, this isn't some intern or someone he met in a chat room, Carlos Danger.
A chat room.
Yeah.
Okay, this is getting interesting here.
Anthony Weiner, I wrote about him too.
Anthony Weiner.
Yeah, I mean, they do things differently than we do.
Okay, now, what could you recommend as a communication specialist to political candidates on how to present themselves? I, frankly, am kind of tired of people wanting to be nice and cover all bases and search for common ground with the Republicans, common ground which, given the current state of the Republican Party, is probably not possible. Now, you're more of an expert than I on how to present yourself to the public. What would you say?
I see what you're saying about not wanting to find common ground where it may not exist,
Yeah.
but I think that the search needs to go on, perhaps with more fervor when it isn't found, meaning the president. I sometimes think the president, and I'm not alone, has been too much of a nice guy, tried to be too conciliatory. And this is why I like Hillary. And a lot of people say this too. She would not have taken 1/10 of the guff that the Republicans tried to dish at the president and did dish at the president and gotten away with it. But to give up on compromise is to give up on our system of government, which sounds kind of, oh, isn't that nice and lofty and, sound the trumpets. But, we still have a system with two majority parties. We still have, a system where a president can't unilaterally pass bills, enact legislation, except in some cases. So he has to work, or she has to work, with the Congress. And if the Republicans are going to control the House, I don't think it's going to do any good to throw hot oil on them. I mean, a lot of them don't have much hair to, protect themselves against it anyway. So, I think we just have to keep trying to get something done.
Can you comment on Hillary Clinton? What are her chances of running for the presidency?
Oh, I think she's got the presidency if she wants it. I mean, I'm not a professional pundit, but I'm playing one on TV right now.
Sure.
But, I mean, she is leading in all the polls you see. She's getting $200,000 a pop for speeches, so she's not really out of the public eye. $200,000 plus.
$200,000 a speech.
Yeah.
Okay.
I mean, she has, in a poll that the Washington Post and ABC News did, she has 35% of the support from Republican women.
Really?
Yes.
Is it Hillary's time, or are there issues that might cause her to change her mind?
I wrote something for MinnPost a little over a year ago about the health scare that she had when she had the concussion. And there have been whispers since then about her health, and I think they're unfair.
Who's whispering?
There was actually a story done in the Daily Caller almost 2 weeks ago, and they cited my piece.
Okay.
And I had said at the time that she wasn't looking so great. She was looking tired, and I think the job of Secretary of State really took a lot out of her, because I think the president, to his credit and to her credit, pretty much handed much of the foreign portfolio over to her.
And she did
a great job.
Yeah.
And she did a super job. And I don't know if the health issues are an issue. Her people are saying they're not. She's looking a lot better to me. Mm-hmm. So I think it just is a matter of, does she want it? She certainly seems to be acting like someone who wants it.
What about Joe Biden? Do you think he'll run?
I think Joe Biden wants it too, and I think Joe Biden might run.
Okay.
But I think if Hillary runs, Joe can perhaps get a job in Vegas, doing stand-up comedy. I don't know.
Okay,
He's
good.
pretty good at that too.
Or join the prize fighters and be a greeter at a casino.
Yeah, but I mean, Joe's pretty funny.
He is. He's top rate. He's top drawer. All these Democrats are
All
top
of them
drawer.
are. All of them are. But Hillary has the gravitas that a lot of them don't have. I mean, she has all the tickets punched.
But she's been very tired.
She was.
And how old will she be when she runs?
She'll be 69 when she runs. And
that may be the oldest presidential candidate since, I don't know.
Ronald Reagan was 69 and 9 months when he was elected president. I mean, 69 today isn't what 69 was 50 years ago either.
Well, it's the new 40, let's face it.
I don't know if it's the new 40.
Well, for me it is.
Maybe, okay.
Yeah, okay.
Well, I'll let you have that.
Thanks.
Good.
Mary, let's talk later in the show about your book.
Okay.
Right now, Timid Video Theater enables us to get up close and personal with the Junkyard Democrats in a dive bar. It's a suburban DFL hangout, and it's all in fun.
Well, do bring it on.
Hey, we're going to take another break now.
We'll be back in 20 minutes. Follow us on Facebook.
Follow us on Twitter. Friend us on Facebook. We're the Junkyard Democrats.
Keep on trucking.
Oh, sweet Jesus. I need a drink.
The Junkyard Democrats. They're on public access TV in Minnesota.
Well, you know what they say about Minnesota. They consider whole milk a spice.
Nord, where are we going to hunt pheasants next fall?
Why don't we go out to Marshall out there in southwestern Minnesota?
I figure the way our politicians are getting pushed around by the NRA, we'll be shooting old Mr. Pheasant with assault rifles pretty soon.
That should blow them up real good.
You really think that's where we're headed?
Does a vacuum cleaner suck? Yeah, and you never know when those school kids and teachers will turn on you. Go NRA!
How'd that mosquito get in here? It's winter in Minnesota.
Global warming.
But here in Minnesota, we got a polar vortex. So damn cold, I saw 2 squirrels in my yard building an igloo.
But Greenland is melting and the seas are rising.
Greenhouse gases, climate change, it's messing everything up.
So all we got to do is Priuses and windmills. and we're off and running. And the problem is solved.
Well, they want to start a copper sulfide mine up on the range. That's sort of like the Minnesota Twins. Promises up front, but going nowhere.
Well, they say it's going to bring a lot of jobs up there in the woods.
Yeah, well, that's like moving Joe Bauer to first base. Make a lot of money, but the team still loses. You ever hunt deer near those copper mines in either Michigan or Colorado?
Yeah, you get to shoot 2 deer in Michigan, but you can't eat the venison.
Yeah, it figures.
You know those libertarian types? Rand Paul, Paul Ryan, the Tea Party guys? They're against raising the minimum wage.
Reduce taxes for the rich.
They're born on third base and act like they hit a triple. What would Jesus say?
Give him a tip.
Ahmed, school, my friends.
School.
What's that, coconut milk?
No, this is camel milk.
Camel milk?
Camel's milk. Someone's drink camel milk for centuries. It has no lactose, no fat, the healthiest milk you can ever drink. That's how we survive in the desert.
Are there any side effects?
Can you keep a secret?
You know, I think I'll have what he's having.
Hey, Ackland.
Oh, sounding good, Tommy.
Yeah, thank you.
That's great.
Hey, you're back from Cairo? What are you drinking? Is that Lipton tea?
Hardly spicy Nile chai.
In this joint? That's pretty fancy.
It is a gourmet blend, you know, flowery, herbal. At first, very sweet and exciting, even seductive. But aftertaste, Tommy, that turns sour and bitter.
What's it called?
It's called Egyptian democracy.
Yeah, Egyptian democracy. Ahmed, because of the Arab Spring, change started. The spirit of Tahrir Square lives on.
More Junkyard Democrats can be seen on YouTube via the Democratic Visions channel. The boys, of course, wear other hats. Tommy Johnson is a veteran. He has a sobering alert here, a commentary on proposed legislation that would slight the spouses of Minnesotans who are military veterans.
There's an old saying among veterans, when the bullets stop flying, the politicians stop caring. I'm talking to you today as a veteran. In Minnesota, there are 5 veterans homes: Silver Bay, Fergus Falls, Laverne, Hastings, and Minneapolis. This Minnesota legislative session, there's a proposed law that's bad for veterans and it's bad for our spouses. There's a proposal to tier who gets in and who gets out. The net result of this is that spouses and widows, women, will never again be allowed into our Minnesota's veterans homes. We think this is wrong. This new ranking, this priority, will put spouses of veterans third on the priority list to getting in. The bottom line with this new ranking and this new priority is they'll never get in because there's always going to be a waiting list and there will always be someone with a priority above a spouse. Virtually every major veterans group in the state of Minnesota is opposed to this legislation. The Minneapolis Veterans Home was founded at the end of the Civil War and honors President Lincoln's second inaugural address. Take care of the veteran, the spouse, the widow, the orphan. Since it's opened, spouses and widows of veterans have been eligible to join that home and all of the other homes in Minnesota. For over 120 years, this system has worked just fine. Veterans don't understand why this is going forward. How could this happen in Minnesota? I don't know, but we're not going to let it happen here. Veterans, friends of veterans, spouses of veterans, concerned citizens need to contact your legislators and let them know House File 2557 is not good for veterans' families.
Now, the Twin Cities art scene is rich and textured. There are many galleries and many kinds of artists. It can, however, be a bit self-involved and indulgent of the metro area's culture vultures, dilettantes, and public television.
But it's Minnesota, so we all get along.
That's right. Now, humorist Jon Spayde, in the guise of his character, Prescott Beauregard, radiates Southern charm to escort a true Minnesota art lover through a superb Bloomington gallery.
A constant battle between a little bit of white and a small area of aquamarine. Mm-hmm. You know, that's constant.
Very astute observation.
Thank you so much. I have spent years going from masterpiece to masterpiece in great loneliness and isolation. For myself, without the presence of art, I think I would shrivel up and blow away like a dead cicada.
And I would dry up like an emerald ash borer without art in my life.
I'm not an artist. In fact, I hate that word, artist. I draw pictures. I make a living drawing pictures. Sometimes I pretend I'm a surgeon, plastic surgeon with paint. I've lived here for 3 years. I've learned how to survive doing what I do. But I can only go so far here. And I want to be published in something that's nationally significant. And that does not exist here.
Now, Mr. Beauregard,
Yes.
being from the South,
Yes.
what elements of these photographs do you identify? Do you see anything Southern in them, or do you think this is something more Northern from perhaps Minnesota?
Well, I of course noticed the perfection of her dental work, which certainly implies a certain prosperity. I don't find it to be either Southern or Northern. I see her as a kind of a pensive American icon. Now, what do you see in this picture, my dear?
What I see is the realism and the in the moment and the emotion coming from the pictures and the people
Well, yes,
in the
of
pictures.
course. I personally detest realism in all its forms. It's simply too harsh, and I find the light here is somewhat harsh as well. And yet, you're very drawn to this realism. I'm curious why.
Well, maybe it's living in Minnesota where we have the extremes of climate and temperature,
Oh, my
and
goodness, you
realism
certainly
smacks you in the face this time of the year.
This is a great place to start out. You know, it's a great place to learn and work among lightweight competition. But if you're ambitious at all, you're going to want to move somewhere else at some point. You know, you can tell by looking at look at the magazines that are published here, the city magazines and stuff. It's all copiers. They copy guys like Levine out of Esquire, you know, Newsweek, Time. It's not original. I mean, let's face it. The place is provincial.
Up here, the harshness of the climate seems to create a sort of stoicism that we would never tolerate where I live. And I'm sure that your gentlemen, in their own inimitable manner, are able to convey maybe 15 to 16% of the message that we Southerners can.
Mr. Beauregard, can you tell me why Southern gentlemen are so charming, genteel, and especially cultured?
Well, it is a combination of how we are raised and a certain degree of sincerity, I would say. My own gentility was practically beaten into me by my pappy. And at the same time, I have come by my own pathway to understand the power and the beauty of, shall we say, the sensitive man. The sensitive man sometimes dropping a single tear. Very, very attractive, I am told.
I don't have time to worry about conceptualizing art or worrying about my own space. I mean, I have responsibilities. What's the matter? Aren't you hungry, blood? No, I'm like anyone else. I gotta pay bills. You know, I got mouths to feed. You know, I gotta go grocery shopping. I gotta take a driver license examination. I mean, I gotta make a living.
A woman of your prepossessing beauty and obvious charm, what is your love life like?
Well, I actually just started dating a new boyfriend.
Oh, my goodness.
And he's a supplier of lutefisk.
Oh, that dreadful fish that is made from lye.
Oh, I have access to an unlimited quantity of lutefisk whenever I want it.
Well, yes, and of course, that is your way.
Would lutefisk and a side of boiled potatoes ever appear on a southern table?
The very idea of eating fish drenched in industrial chemicals, I don't think we would partake, if you know what I mean.
I understand. Beauregard, a confession. I have no boyfriend, no lover. There's only the art, only the art.
Minnesota Aboriginal was brought to you by Timid Video Theater, which premiered back in 1977 on KTCA-TV with a legendary fundraiser, Jack Bowman, and sketches with names like Bowling for Tenure, Taste Commandos, and Attack of the Burger Pots. That was the real Brick Mason, about 1980, and he really is an artist. And that was the real Pam Scherling, who does love art and this show. She operates studio cameras here and keeps us classy. Mary, you ride public transit, right?
Of course.
How do you feel about the Southwest Light Rail Transit project?
I like it. I think we need it. I'm an uptown girl. I ride the train.
Now, one of the dominating issues for Southwest Light Rail Transit is alignment of freight and light rail trains through either the Kenilworth Corridor in Kenwood or St. Louis Park.
St. Louis Park will likely oppose any realignment of freight rail through its city that currently uses the Kenilworth Corridor in Minneapolis.
Generally speaking, the suburbs don't ask for much when you're bonding bills. We really don't.
That was clear at a February 26 town meeting. Although Southwest LRT is now a Met Council project, Representatives Steve Simon, Ryan Winkler, and Senator Ron Latz do support the state's small share of the project's funding.
You know, we've carried the funding at the state over the years. I've carried the bonding.
They agree with their constituents, the project planners, and Twin Cities and Western Railroad that Kenilworth makes the most sense. The small railroad serves and is important to western Minnesota. But opposition to running light rail trains along with existing freight tracks and a bike trail in Kenilworth has been organized, noisy, and politically connected.
Most of all, this project suffers from a failure to factor in freight.
Several tunneling options are being considered for that area. Each one adds to cost and delays the project. Because of the expense of placating Kenilworth, project engineers have for now eliminated the last leg of the LRT along Technology Drive west of Mitchell Road.
I will say that
Eden Prairie planners are not happy about this, but continue to work on alignment, parking, and traffic issues at the Southwest Transit Hub, and with a community input report, a new light rail station in the town center area.
Here's a bit more on the Southwest Light Rail Transit project.
The Met Council is slated to review the latest version of the project on April 2nd. Hennepin County and then Minneapolis, Minnetonka, Hopkins, Eden Prairie, and St. Louis Park will follow with their own reviews. For information, reports, and news on the project, upcoming meetings, and public hearings, go to swlrt.org. That's swlrt.org.
What other women politicians at a national level perk your curiosity?
Well, you know, we've heard a lot about our own Minnesota Senator Amy Klobuchar,
sure,
who's been said to be one of 17 women in the country who might have a shot at being president.
Okay.
She has made very few mistakes. and she has advocated issues that aren't always traditional Democratic issues.
Yeah.
She's been able to work across the aisle, which everyone talks about doing, and few actually do it, and she has, and she's done it well. And, you know, she's smart. She has, you know, a clean history. And she has been able to appeal to all sorts of people in Minnesota. Minnesota's sort of, you know, a good state to look at because, you know, you have farmers, you have city people, you have small town residents, and she's been able to appeal to all of them. I think she's got potential. I think her day isn't yet. Mm-hmm. I like her for the future, but I don't think she has quite the national stature that she'll need. And I don't know if she can raise the kind of money. I mean, the 2012 presidential campaign cost $2 billion.
$2 billion.
$2 billion. Yeah. Now, the only one I can see of all the Democrats, at least, who can raise that kind of money is Hillary.
The Clintons, they were very good at that.
Yeah, nobody raises money like Bill Clinton.
Now, Mary, your recent book, your novel, Life Erupted. I love it. I'm into the 5th chapter. I really appreciate your take on television crews in hospitals. I've been there, done that on the crew side. You write knowingly about my profession and yours, about doctors, scientists, and La Vida Sola. You're single.
Oh, yes.
And you write about it.
Yes.
Tell me about the book.
Well, I thought if I ever wrote a book, I'd write a nonfiction book. And many people were on me for many years to write about my experiences at the university. I was there when there was a lot of trouble now some years ago. And I thought, well, you know, I'm not going to just write it as nonfiction, and I'm not going to just write about doctors screwing around and nurses taking drugs and all that sort of thing, because that sort of book has already been written.
Yeah.
I wanted to write a book from the perspective of a PR person, a spokesperson, the type that I was, and I wanted to incorporate a lot of the Minnesota life that I found very foreign when I first moved here, that being the Scandinavian culture.
You're from Milwaukee.
I'm from Milwaukee, where, you know, there are some Scandinavians, but dang few.
In Milwaukee, we're exotics, right?
Exotic to the hilt, yes.
Okay, so...
mostly because you don't drink beer.
Now, how do people find Life Erupted? I mean, the book.
The book. Yeah. Their own life eruptions are up to them. But you can buy the book on Amazon in paperback or on Kindle, or you can go to my website, marystanik.com, read the first chapter there as well. It's at the University of Minnesota bookstore in the Minnesota Regional section.
Mary, thanks for being with us.
Thank you. I enjoyed
Come back.
it. I will. Okay. Thanks.
Democratic Visions is independently crafted by volunteers, mostly Democrats, from Eden Prairie, Minnetonka, Edina, and Bloomington. The presentation of guests and opinions on this program does not indicate endorsement by the state DFL party or DFL Senate District 48.